Hello dear students, welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy, the Hindu news analysis. Today is 18 September 2024 and today we have some important articles for the discussion, and one by one we'll try to discuss all these important articles in a very detailed manner. And before discussing them, you all knew that yesterday I have given one prelims practice question, and the question is about the environmental conservation, or you could say about the environmental pollution. So global methane pledge is an effort to cut methane emissions by the end of this decade is led by which of the following countries? And the correct answer for this question is option B, United States of America and European Union. And in fact, as I've already told you, that it is a potent greenhouse gas. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas, and therefore it is very important that these methane emissions should be immediately reduced in order to reduce the global warming. And global warming has also been further contributing to the climate change. And if you look at this explanation part of it, US President Joe Biden has announced this global methane pledge, and this global methane pledge, a US and European Union led effort to cut methane emissions by third by the end of this decade. And this is the overall aim and objective of this global methane pledge. And in fact, Mr. Biden made the announcement at the Major Economies Forum on Energy and Climate, or which is also known as MEF, hosted virtually by the White House, in which leaders from several countries and the European Union have participated in this, right? So therefore you have to understand one thing, that this is a very important question, and global methane pledge is an initiative of the United States of America and European Union, right? So today also I have a very important prelims practice question, so which is based on economy, and the question is Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement, which is also known as TEPA, is sometimes seen in news, and it is in the context of negotiations held between India and which of the following organizations? And the organizations given here are A, Gulf Cooperation Council, B, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, C, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and the European Free Trade Association, right? So try to answer this question in the comment section, and the correct answer will be providing you in tomorrow's class. And without any further delay, let's get into the discussion. We have a very important editorial which is given in the Hindu newspaper. It is about India's economic growth and its trajectory and development, and how economic growth has not been resulting in a sustained employment generator, right? So we have a huge demographic dividend. India is very well known as a country with a huge demographic dividend. Now I hope all of you knew about this demographic dividend. So when I say demographic dividend, so it essentially means that, you know, the number of people who are in the working age, and India is a country with the largest number of people in the working age, and India's economic growth is drawing attention as it becomes the world's fastest growing large economy with a median age of 28. And in fact, the median age of India is 28, and that indicating that there's a huge potential for economic growth in India. And in fact, so 63% of India's total population in the working age, that essentially means that 14 to 64 years of age group of people are considered as working age people. So therefore 63% of India's total population are in the working age, and the median age of India's total population is 28 years, and this has been indicating that India has a strong potential in terms of economic growth and economic development. So we also have a huge demographic dividend, and the focus should be on utilizing such demographic dividend in a better possible manner. However, the labor force participation rate in India is abysmally low, so that is around 55.2% only. But so when we talk about the overall female labor force participation, the female labor force participation is very low in India, and the focus should be on increasing the engagement of the labor force So that would ensure a greater gender equality and woman empowerment, and a greater contribution on the part of the woman to the economic growth and economic development. So therefore we very often call Indian economy or India's economic growth rate as a jobless growth. So in this context, it is very important that we need to focus on harnessing the existing demographic dividend as effectively as possible, right? So when we use the existing demographic dividend in an efficient manner, so that would effectively translates into economic growth and economic development, and India would also become the third largest economy very soon if we use this demographic dividend in a right manner. Now in this context, we require economic reforms, and these economic reforms could further fuel the economic growth and development. So therefore to sustain and even accelerate the growth, India must continue its reform agenda, and India should also focus on improving productivity and efficiency in India's markets. So that is the key focus area for India. So however, one important finding which has been highlighted by the economic survey in the year 2023-24. So economic survey has specifically highlighted that the technological advancements are changing the capital to labor ratio in India, right? So whatever technological advancements that we have been introducing or introduced in our industry has been changing the existing capital to labor ratio. So therefore this has been suggesting an imbalance, the existing imbalance in the capital led growth versus labor utilization. So in this context, it is very important, in order to create large scale employment, we need to look into the technological advancements and how these technological changes have been making or bringing changes into the engagement of the workforce, right? So economists have very often arguing that India should leverage its abundant labor force rather than just completely focusing on the capital intensive industries, right? So labor intensive industries such as MSMEs would create labor intensive industries, right? So we have labor intensive industries, for example leather industry, so footwear industry. So all these industries are considered as a labor intensive industry. So we should focus on the labor intensive industries rather than the capital intensive industries, because capital intensive industries or technological intensive industries so would not be able to create a huge employment opportunities. So when they not able to create a huge employment opportunities, how could we employ the existing demographic dividend, or how could we use the existing demographic dividend in an efficient and effective manner? So one area where there's a huge potential for the creation of employment is micro, small and medium enterprises. But as of now, the micro, small and medium enterprises are being reluctant to scale up alongside large businesses. So therefore that has been avoiding labor intensive sectors. So as I have already emphasized, that labor intensive sectors are very important to utilize the existing demographic dividend in an efficient and effective manner and create a large scale employment opportunities. So therefore we need to further encourage, enhance and revive the MSMEs, and we should also bring in the labor reforms, because as of now most of India's labor laws are outdated. So labor reforms are the need of the hour to create a large scale employment opportunities. So therefore, in fact, the government, in order to bring in reforms in the existing labor laws, has introduced labor codes. In fact, the government has introduced 4 different labor codes. However, these labor codes have been deterring potential investors, and even it also requires some resolution, and this labor code should also address certain issues, especially states with established manufacturing ecosystem. So all these issues which have been existing with respect to the labor reforms have to be resolved as early as possible, so that it could attract and incentivize investors to invest in India, particularly the labor intensive industries, and that would help in creating large scale employment opportunities for the people, right? So there are certain employment sectors, and in order to ensure that these sectors are taking adequate number of workforce, the workforce should be adequately skilled, right? So skilling, upskilling and reskilling reskilling is also very important with respect to the skill development of the existing demography, right? So that is how the existing workforce can be adequately employed in different sectors. So 45% of the workforce still engaged in the agriculture sector. So we cannot say that only 45%, more than 45% of the workforce still engaged in the agriculture sector. But if you look at the contribution of agriculture sector to India's GDP, it is just 18%. Now in this context, the urgent need into the agriculture sector to enhance the agricultural productivity, and also transition of workers who are engaged in the or excessive labor force which is engaged in the agriculture sector to other sectors such as manufacturing, industry, and other different sectors have to be so they should be a healthy transition, and this transition is very important. And 19% of the workforce is engaged in fragmented, low productivity, non-agricultural sectors, right? So that is where the existing demographic dividend is being wasted. And we all knew that in the agriculture sector there's an employment type which is prevalent, which is a disguised unemployment, right? So this disguised unemployment type is prevalent, right? So therefore we need to address this one, and targeting high growth labor intensive sectors such as toys, apparel, tourism, logistics. So all these things can address the aspirations of the workforce. So as skills improve over a period of time, there's a potential for job enhancement and also increased wages, helping to uplift the Indian economy, right? So that is the focus area. Skilling Indian workforce is the key focus area that has to be worked on. And only 4% of 15 to 29% age cohort is formally skilled in India, right? So it is a very low number of people who are adequately skilled in India. But when we compare the number of people that who are skilled in other countries, for example South Korea, around 94% of the total working age population are skilled, and even countries like Japan, around 83% of its total population are skilled, and even US and China, more than 50% of the total workforce is skilled. But so when you compare the skilling levels of these countries with India just only 4% of people who are in the age group of 15 to 29 are adequately skilled. So therefore adequate skilling requires public-private partnerships for curriculum development, and also recognizing that skill development must be a continuous process to adapt to the market needs, right? So the other thing is that education, artificial intelligence, and how the future outlook. Now technological advancements are bringing into the different sectors, and the government has also focusing on improving the curriculum and improving the educational outcomes through a national education policy that was framed by the government. So all these things, how the future outlook with respect to jobs would change, and that is what so we need to understand. And in fact the national education policy, so that was framed in the year 2020, emphasizes on foundational and higher order cognitive skills, right? So this is where the national education policy has emphasized on, but it requires a periodic reviews to remain relevant in a rapidly changing world, and continuous adoption of adaptation of educational frameworks is essential for preparing the existing workforce with adequate skills, upskilling, reskilling, and also providing skills and making people or students employable once they pass out or once they come out from the colleges. So new technologies are also making rapid strides into different sectors of the economy, such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, and low skilling. Because of this particular reason of new technologies which are coming into different sectors, so they even take away the jobs of low skilled individuals. So low skilled individuals or people who are not adequately skilled, they would lose the employment opportunities. So therefore, despite introduction of such technologies into different sectors, human oversight remains a very important, a very vital thing in a future. So if we wanted to introduce such technologies in a large scale, so no doubt when we introduce such technologies in a large scale, they certainly enhance the productivity. Okay, so India is the second largest talent pool in terms of artificial intelligence, but a projected 51% of the gap between demand and supply needs addressing to capitalize this opportunity. So India's young and aspirational population presents a unique challenge, and that is preferable to an aging demographic dividend, and a holistic approach to skill development and job creation is crucial, and that could harness the demographic dividend and also position India as the global economic leader as well, right? So this is how India could improve itself, and India's demographic dividend could be harnessed, and the potential of this demographic dividend can be used in a right possible manner, and that would ensure India's economic growth and also economic development in the coming future. And next important article is with respect to the climate crisis that we have been facing, and this climate crisis agenda. So how we need to consider this climate crisis or climate change, which is a very important aspect to deal with, right? So it without any doubt, climate crisis requires urgent attention. The context is that India's climate action efforts are entering into the critical phase because the country sets the ambitious target for 2030, right? So we all knew that we have a sustainable development goals of United Nations, and these sustainable development goals targeted to be achieved by the year 2030, and we have 17 sustainable development goals. However, in fact, apart from the sustainable development goals, so India has also announced some Panchamrit commitments with respect to the climate obligations, or they are India's climate commitments, which were announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Glasgow summit, and most of these commitments that India has announced are targeted at the year 2030. So despite the progress that India has been making in the area of renewable energy, because we all knew that how India has been making rapid strides in the area of renewable energy, renewable technologies, but India still disproportionately dependent on coal and coal imports, because we all knew that coal is a fossil fuel, and apart from coal is being a fossil fuel, it emits a lot of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and these greenhouse gases over a period of time would result in global warming, and along with the global warming, so this would lead to the climate change, right? So in fact, clean energy constituting only 22% of the total electricity mix. Now in this backdrop, it is very important that India should make a rapid transition from the coal based electricity generation to the clean fuels such as wind, solar, and other renewable form of energy. So there are a lot of environmental issues as well, so those environmental issues needs to be considered with an immediate priority or an urgent priority. So those environmental issues including the heat stress, the air quality and waste management, and even energy efficiency. So all these environmental issues also require an immediate attention to align with the rising energy demand, and that should be the top priority of our country, right? So in this context, how could we mitigate the pollutants? Because so when we use fossil fuels for transportation or for industrial purposes, for various other reasons, so they would release a lot of greenhouse gases, and along with the greenhouse gases, they also emit a lot of pollutants into the environment. So pollutants are the cause of concern, because pollutants such as various pollutants also further augment the global warming, and also they are cause serious health problems. So India faces significant risks from heat stress, and that would potentially encounter heat waves beyond the human survivability limits. And mitigating the carbon dioxide and short-lived climate pollutants such as methane is essential, and it is very important because these super pollutants have much greater short-term warming impact. So that's why mitigation of pollutants is very, very important in India's context. So when we focuses on addressing these climate challenges, so through tailored treaties, so there are a number of treaties, so through which we have been focusing on the climate change and climate change related issues. So addressing climate challenges through these treaties can actually enhance accountability under the Paris Agreement. So we have a United Nations Framework Convention on climate change, and this implements the Kyoto Protocol, right? So Kyoto Protocol, and Kyoto Protocol specifically deals with the reducing the greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. And in fact, so we also have the Montreal Protocol. Montreal Protocol is with respect to the protection of ozone layer, and which is very important because ozone layer very often prevent the entry of the UV rays. UV rays are very harmful for the plants, animals, and also human beings. And with the success of Montreal Protocol, and Kigali Amendment was also made to this Montreal Protocol with the overall focus of reducing the methane emissions, could prevent nearly 0.3 degrees Celsius warming by 2040. So we need to look into all the possibilities of reducing the greenhouse gas emissions or reducing the global warming, because ultimately that would ensure that the climate change would be under the control. And improving air quality requires 5 key actions, such as the collective responsibility, investment in clean air initiatives and sustainable development integration, data-driven interventions, and even recognizing the air quality's economic benefits, right? So improving air quality requires all these 5 key actions, and these key actions have to be adopted and practiced across different cities in India or different states where there is a higher concentration or higher emission of pollutants or greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So consistent efforts or sustained efforts are the need of the hour, are there necessary to tackle the air pollution as a persistent issue which has been existing in India. So importance of carbon markets. So what is the importance of carbon markets in this context? So carbon markets can incentivize the greenhouse gas reductions by offering financial rewards for emission cuts, because financial rewards for the emission cuts are very, very important, because so they would act like incentives, right? So incentives are very, very important because they would encourage people or industries to cut the greenhouse gases. So in this context, in order to reduce the greenhouse gases, certain initiatives such as carbon markets, so carbon markets, and even initiatives like green credit programs, so all these things are very, very important. So they have to be further incentivized, further encouraged. That will help in reducing the greenhouse gases and pollutants into the environment. So we have the goal of limiting the global warming or increase in the global temperatures by 1.5 degrees Celsius if possible, but maximum 2 degrees Celsius of below the pre-industrial levels. So a reduction of at least 43% of the global greenhouse gases is required to achieve this goal, and therefore making these markets essential for achieving this particular target of reducing the emissions or even reducing the pollutants. And India aims to launch India carbon market, because remember, I have already told you these are certain initiatives which are incentivizing the reduction of the greenhouse gases. So therefore India as of now aiming to launch India carbon market in the year 2026, potentially establishing the world's largest emission trading system by the year 2030. And this could help meet the nationally determined contributions, or NDCs, right? Nationally determined contributions, and also to avoid 35 trillion in climate related costs over the next 50 years. So current carbon trading metrics aggregate all pollutants into CO2 equivalents, and that could obscure the distinct impacts of different pollutants as well. And we have a short-lived climate pollutants and also long-lived climate pollutants. And short-lived climate pollutants live for a very short period of time, weeks to years, in the atmosphere, but on the other hand the long-lived climate pollutants live longer periods of time, even 100 years or 50 years. So therefore separating long-lived pollutants from short-lived climate pollutants in carbon markets could actually yield more effective climate action. And so any possibility with respect to reducing the greenhouse gas emissions or global warming, or even for that matter reducing the pollutants, is very, very important. So for India at this crucial juncture, and we need to look into the governance and political engagement. How could we achieve all these objectives in an efficient and effective manner? So in order to do so, establishing a constitutional nodal authority for climate action is essential. It is important to ensure coordinated preemptive measures with timelines across the government tiers. and this would further facilitate the accountability and also effective governance in tackling the climate issues as well. And in 2024, Lok Sabha elections actually showed a troubling neglect of the climate issues despite the public demand, because there was no political party, no political group which actually come up with a set of the climate change related issues. So therefore 2024 Lok Sabha elections or general election completely neglected the issue of climate change, and therefore in this context it is very important that the people are aware about the issues of climate change, and they should understand the negative impact, the consequences of the climate change, and they should also strongly advocate for the policies which aims to address the negative impact of climate change. And they should also increase pressure on the government to build a resilient infrastructure, because resilient infrastructure is very, very important that could withstand the weather related impacts. So the absence of strong political commitment to climate action further increases or exacerbates the vulnerabilities, particularly for economically disadvantaged who prioritizes immediate survival. So for a meaningful progress, climate action must become a central to the political agendas, moving beyond the token gestures, and climate progressive leadership is necessary to foster a sustainable and even equitable future for India going ahead, right? So next important article that we are going to discuss is about the death penalty through an Aparajita woman and child West Bengal Criminal Laws Amendment Bill of 2024. So this particular bill recently passed by the West Bengal state government, and this bill increases the crime, increases the penalty for the crime which is committed against woman and girl child, right? So we need to talk about this because death penalty is one of the a penalty which is being imposed for serious nature of crimes by the West Bengal state government. So we'll try to discuss this in a very detailed manner. The recent legislative move of West Bengal state government was Aparajita Woman and Child West Bengal Criminal Laws Amendment Bill of 2024, and that comes into action amidst a rising sexual violence in India. So with 31,516 rapes reported in the year 2022. So this particular bill has been referred to the president, sparking a national debate on capital punishments for the effectiveness. For example, so this particular bill has raised the punishments for the rising sexual violence in India. So now, what are the legislative developments that were brought into effect again, particularly for a crime against woman and girl child? And this bill, which has been introduced in the Lok Sabha, the legislature of the West Bengal. So the bill increases the number of offences punishable by death from 12 to 18, right? So a number of offenses increased from 12 to 18, reflecting the public outrage over the sexual violence. And critics have also been arguing that the harsher penalties do not improve the woman's safety, and high rates of violence persist in the society, right? So there will be no deterrent effect, even though the state governments or the governments have coming up with such harsher penalties or harsher measures. So however, despite this bill has been anonymously passed in the West Bengal Assembly without any opposition, the governor, while giving assent to the bill, has expressed certain concerns, and in fact due to such concerns that the governor has expressed, governor referred the bill to the consideration of the president. And therefore this move indicates a need for the balance between legislative action and also the judicial oversight over such bills which are being passed by the state legislative assemblies or the union parliament. However, so when we look into the data from certain data which is being released by National Crime Records Bureau, so this particular data has been showing that states such as Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh and even Madhya Pradesh lead in number of rape cases. The total number of rape cases, if you look at the highest number of rape cases in India, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and UP are top the list. So therefore it has been emphasizing a systematic violence against women which is prevalent in the society. So therefore, so we need to address those systematic violence, and what are the factors which have been perpetrating the systematic violence against the woman. So this data reinforces the necessity for targeting or targeted legal reforms beyond the punitive measures, right? So what are the global perspectives and trends with respect to the capital punishment against any crime or against any offense? Globally, around 112 countries so as of now have abolished the death penalty, and in fact still in India death penalty or capital punishment are still prevalent. And in fact, so India remains a retentionist nation, because still we have the death penalty as one of the punishment against any offense. So this particular trend challenges the effectiveness of capital punishment as a deterrent to certain crimes which are being committed. So death row to the prisoners face severe mental and physical health challenges as well, and that often stemming from inadequate support which is being extended to the people who are convicted. So the increasing number of marginalized individuals, under trial people or on death row highlights the existing socio-economic disparities in the justice system. So these issues should also be addressed in a clear and comprehensive manner. So victim-centered reform should include educational initiatives to challenge patriarchal norms, and a comprehensive state support for the survivors and their families is crucial, and it is very important for fostering resilience and also dignity for the for the people who are who have gone through these who are the victims of such crimes, right? So today we have one important mains practice question, and this is with respect to the separation of powers and even separation of judiciary from the executive. The question is, separation of judiciary from the executive protects sanctity of judiciary, and in this context prohibiting judges from participating in the politics is crucial step, because so when judges started participating in politics, so that ensures that there is no clear separation of judiciary and the executive. That was envisioned by the Directive Principles of State Policy Part 4 of the Indian Constitution. So therefore a separation of judges or prohibiting judges from participation of politics is a crucial step to uphold judicial independence. So analyze is the directive word for this particular mains question. So what should be the approach? So approach for any question is very, very important, because approach helps you structure the answer properly. So first and foremost, you need to introduce separation of judiciary from the executive, and then write a stand on post-retirement job by the government for the retired judges, and then discuss the importance of prohibition of participation of judges in politics, and conclude the answer by writing a way forward. So this is how you can structure this answer. So initially you could write an introduction with respect to the separation of judiciary from the executive, or separation of powers to ensure judicial independence, right? So judicial independence is part of the basic structure doctrine as per the Keshwanand Bharti judgment. So prohibiting judges from participating in politics, right? So judges should not be allowed to participate in politics, because that would lead to compromising the judicial independence, indeed a crucial step to maintain judicial independence. So judicial independence is considered as cornerstone of democracy in India, because judicial independence ensures that judiciary remains free from the external pressure and influences, particularly from the political branches of the government, particularly from the executive influence, right? So executive influence. So however, what should be the stand on post-retirement job by the government for retired judges? So that is what we have to be talking about. So in this context, 14th Law Commission has come up with a report on post-retirement benefits or post-retirement job which is being offered to the judges of the Supreme Court and High Court. So 14th report of the Law Commission has indicated that, or it has considered the question of such nominations or even appointments before forming the negative opinion. So this particular report has said that it is clearly undesirable that the Supreme Court judges should look forward to other government employees after their retirement. So, right, so the 14th Law Commission is of the clear opinion that after the retirement, judges should not be part of the government, because that would influences their conduct when they are hearing the petitions in the Supreme Court or the High Court. Because the other thing is that Supreme Court, so the government is one of the major party to a majority of the cases in both the Supreme Court and High Court. So therefore there will be bias and there will be partiality when it comes to judges deciding those matters. So however, we need to understand the importance of prohibition of judges participating in politics. So because when we ensure, what is the importance, because it would be in line with the principle of separation of powers. Separation of powers essentially means that judiciary should not encroach upon into the legislative functions and executive functions, and executive should not encroach upon the functions of the judiciary and also legislature, so vice versa. So that is like that. So it enforces the separation of powers, which is considered as fundamental to the functioning of democratic system in India, and in fact Indian constitution so implicitly has provided for the separation of powers, but it has nowhere mentioned about the separation of powers. And impartiality is another important aspect of prohibiting judges from participation of executive. So it preserves the impartiality of the judiciary by preventing judges from having political biases or being partial to one such political party or the political views. So that even could impact their overall judgments as well. So that would lead to the compromising the integrity and compromising independence of the judiciary, right? So prohibition of judges from participating in politics maintains the integrity of the judiciary by avoiding conflicts of interest and also ensuring that decisions are made based on law and not political convenience. And even public confidence, it ensures public confidence because it enhances public confidence in the judiciary, as people are more likely to trust a system so that is free from the political maneuvering. Okay, so these are the benefits, or these are the importance of prohibition of judges from participating in politics. So what should be the need of the hour in this context? We have understood so how it is very important that we need to prevent judges from participating in politics. So what are the reforms that are required? What should be the way forward? So there is a creeping worry that the post-retirement jobs such as judges are being declared as governors of states, and judges are being given nominated posts in the Rajya Sabha. So these are known as the post-retirement jobs which are being offered by the executive to the members of the judiciary after their retirement. So are a result of pre-retirement judgments which are being announced by those respective judges. So this would lead to the lack of integrity, lack of impartiality, objectivity in the courts, and also increases the executive influence on the functioning of judiciary. So above all, the public confidence in the judiciary so cannot be shaken through such appointments, because judiciary as of now has been enjoying a huge public confidence, trust, support. So therefore we cannot compromise on such confidence and trust that the people have been enjoying in the judiciary. So the issue needs to be resolved convincingly. So besides ethics demand that no retired judge of the High Court accepts a post, so that will actually have a room for criticism and controversy. And retirement age of the judges should be raised to 70 years, and they should be given their last salary as pension and not given any post, so that does not involve judicial or quasi-judicial work for at least 3 years. So all these measures have to be adopted in a judiciary, and that would prevent judges interfering or involving in the politics, because that would lead to the violation of separation of powers, and that would also lead to the compromising integrity and independence of the judiciary. So prohibiting judges overall from engaging in political activities is essential, and it is very important to safeguard the independence of the judiciary and also ensure that justice is administered without fear or favor. So that's how you could write a brief conclusion in the answer, and you could finally conclude this answer, right? So that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. If you like our work, please subscribe our YouTube channel and also hit the like button. Thank you.